Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky of Break of Day Capital. I talk to leading experts to discuss a wide range of subjects to educate investors on best-in-class practices to build legacy wealth and positively impact communities. Let's jump in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Lipsky with Break of Day Capital. Be sure to join our Facebook group, Asset Management Mastery, where we have a great community of thousands of like-minded individuals sharing resources and best practices. Today on the podcast, we have Ruben Ortiz. Ruben is the founder of Sayan Renovations Construction based in Dallas. Ruben and his team tackle complex construction challenges with a focus on quality, innovation, and authenticity. Hey everyone, we have launched the BODC Multifamily Impact Fund. Invest with a trusted operator with a track record of success. Our fund offers diversification, risk mitigation, tax benefits, and stringent acquisition criteria. If you'd like to learn more, head over to our website at breakofdaycapital.com.
Choosing the right insurance coverage for multifamily properties isn't that complicated if you know who to talk to. At the Garzella Group, we're uniquely qualified to help you navigate the range of policy choices you have, and we're committed to saving you 30% in the process. We do intensive market research and have nationwide relationships, so we can find coverage other insurance brokers simply can't. We should talk. Go to quotenow.biz, and we'll start the conversation.
Thanks for joining us, Ruben. Can you start by telling the listeners a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Thank you. First of all, man, thank you very much for having me on today. I appreciate it. Like Gary mentioned, I am the owner and founder of Sayan Renovations Construction. We're a multifamily GC focusing on large-scale asset repositioning based out of Dallas, Texas. We are nationwide. So really, Gary, wherever our clients need us we're able to go, fortunately. So, that's what we do. We work with operators, like yourself, asset managers, property management companies, syndication groups, and we help them, like you said, solve their CapEx, budgets, schedules, programming, all that stuff. That's our main focus. That's been our main focus since we started. We are now 10 years old, started in 2014. And here we are now on your podcast. So
awesome. Well, I've seen your work through some of my friends that work with you, and I always was impressed. And I love to kind of dive in, as an operator, figure out the nuances of how we can improve our relationships with GCs, how to think through those things. So I'm gonna want to ask questions along those lines. But first off, how did you get started working in the multifamily niche?
Oh man, I grew obviously, coming from a migrant family. My dad started when he came to the U.S. started working in construction. So going to work with him in the summers, and doing the labor, and he would do some work on some of these apartment complexes. And that's really when I, going to work with him in the summers. I tried the college route. It wasn't for me. I think I went to our community college for about a week and was like, man, this isn't for me. And so went to work with him as a laborer full time, basically after that. I was like 18, 19, worked with him, then got the opportunity to come on as a project manager for another GC. Worked there for a few years, learning a few things here and there. Fast forward to about 2014, decided to take a leap of faith and said, hey, I feel that I can, do things maybe a different way, and just be genuine with clients. And there's maybe a different outlook and perspective on how a GC can interact with a client and make things a little easier. And man, started in 2014, and it didn't take off right away, right? Just like anything, had to knock on several doors and finally get an opportunity. and haven't looked back since, Gary. I mean, that's really how and why I got started.
Let's talk about that disconnect, because I think you ask anyone, and pretty much everyone will have a story of a frustrating relationship with a GC at some point. And when you find someone good, you hold on them, really tight. But how does someone develop a strong relationship and get build systems so that processes and build outs run very smoothly?
Right. So, how to build relationship, and the way we've approached it, Gary, and same with our systems, right? And it's taken a while, and look at some of these things. Some of these things just by nature take a while, right? You start with one person, and then you start bringing on more people, and then the system has to change. But one thing, and at least with us, there's one thing that has stayed constant, and will probably never change, and that is the way we interact with our clients, with full transparency. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's like, hey, just be honest, right? Look, there's nothing to hide here. This is what. Let's figure out, you operator, client, whoever it is, what it is that you're needing. And look, this is how we can help you. And we're not going to hide anything. This is what we're doing. We're doing our best to get you the best pricing. Our project managers are qualified, and never really with the expectation, Gary, that, hey, we're perfect. Nothing's going to happen. Choose us because we are it. We're not going to make mistakes. Not at all. We're not. But one thing we are going to do is, when those mistakes happen, we're going to act quick. We're going to be honest about it, and we're going to make it right. And that has made a huge, huge difference in the way we want to interact with clients, the way clients perceive us, and being able to develop those strong relationships with our clients.
Yep. Where does an operator go wrong in picking a GC, and how to, what are some of the things they should be looking for when picking a GC?
Sure. Look, I think naturally, right, and I think we've all made that. I don't want to say mistake, but we all kind of have inclined to going with the cheaper price, right? And a lot of times, look, you get a price and it's X amount way up here. You can always find a lower price, but at what? Really, at the end of the day, you can find it. You can find a cheaper price, but at what cost? Ultimately, at the end of the day. So one, I would recommend, right, as an operator, obviously, always try to do your best to get 3 bids, and really, standard stuff. Vet that GC, get referrals. Obviously, and a good GC is never really going to shy away from providing you that stuff, anyways. And also, more importantly, how that person, how that GC, what that interaction is like. I mean, do you feel like you can trust them? Sometimes just going with your gut makes a big impact. And outside of that, and also, I think something that we end up encountering often in certain situations, Gary, is, operators tend to, in some cases, not really share or want to be fully transparent. And I get it, but share your full plan with the GC. It's only going to make that initial process a lot easier, and not get hit with surprises or certain change orders towards the end of the project or mid-project that are really going to blow things out of the water.
Yeah, and just like if someone's trying to do research on an operator as a syndicator, what is that communication style? Are they getting back to you right away with answering all the questions, stuff like that? Because if they're not, and they seem super busy, then that's how your project's going to be like, most likely. And so that communication piece is so important.
That's a great point. I mean, I think, look, the initial interactions are going to be crucial, and sure, people get busy, things get busy. There's a lot of things that happen during a project, but communication is big, and anyone will tell you if you talk with any of our guys, we are big on communication, and just getting a response back to our clients is huge. Whether it be, if you are busy, hey, give me about, whatever it is, 30 minutes, give me 24 hours, and I will get back with you with a response. But just, small things like that make a huge difference when it comes to communication, and just making your client and an operator feel that, okay, I'm heard, they are aware of what's going on. I will get a response, but they're not just blowing me off, right? And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. How do you work with an operator on like return on investment? I mean, do you have these conversations, or do they just say, "Hey, I just need this painted or these things renovated," or do you guys really talk through like, well, what their goal is to get that return on investment is?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a lot of times operators, obviously know a little bit more of what that return might look like, but yes, we do, Gary. So, just funny enough, on Tuesday, we were doing an ED for a client, and a great property. And they have a certain style of building that allows for, then sometimes it's very simple stuff where they have room for like an extra 20 units, where they have ample room to come in and do some privacy fences with a gate and create that, a different, I guess, ambiance for a tenant. But the ability to push rents a little bit more is there too. So at the end of the day, bumping their NOI. So we do have conversations like that, and sometimes it's pretty intricate as far as, say, how can we come in and not spend too much on interiors, but still get our bang for our buck. Working through intricacies like that, especially 2024, we know was a pretty interesting year. But we do have conversations with our clients about that. We can guide them through that, what works best, what might not work. Hey, why maybe not do granite countertops in this property, just stay with your Formica or whatever it is, because it's just not going to work in this market, and you're not going to see that return quickly. And sometimes it's intricate like that, and sometimes it's as easy as just, hey, you got room for a yard here, why don't you add it, and you're able to bump rents.
Yeah, we've done, obviously in the last year and a half, you're not getting that return on interiors right now. Mm-hmm. That'll come back, but focusing more on the exterior, and having that resident pride of owner, pride of really renting by focusing on that. Have you done any, talk through one of your, a cool project you did on an exterior for a multifamily property?
Yeah. So obviously one of the first things that we do when we come onto a property or during the D is come up with, hey, how can we rebrand the property, or what colors are going to work? What's going to look good? So recently, I'll mention this because we all know them, and I've done some cool stuff with Disrupt, Momentum, but coming in, rebranding the property, and just seeing so residents can see that change, right? And it gets residents excited, and it obviously brings more traffic in. But spending Capex dollars there. And also one of the big things where I know clients have seen big success is renovating and spending some money in their leasing offices, especially when there's a takeover, especially when there's a change in owners. It is, the first, I think the first impression is huge. And I think we all by nature kind of tend to forget about that. But first thing a new prospective resident looks at when they come in is your leasing office, and you want it to look nice. You want it to catch their attention, because that more than likely is going to transfer into, hey, if this office looks good, then the units are going to look great. That my quality of life here at the property is going to be good. So
Yeah, I 100% agree. One of our properties that we bought, tremendous transformation. It was dark in there. It was a low ceiling, and we were able to raise the ceiling just 18 inches, and it just changed everything. Nice bright colors, more windows, a little bit of art, and we didn't have to spend. I think the whole and we did the clubhouse. We opened it up. They had some really old furniture. We found there was some water back there, so we plumbing. So we were able to add a kitchen area. I don't think we spent more than 75, and it just changed the whole feel of the property by focusing on that. Like you said, that first impression when they come to lease to look at the property and to potentially lease a unit, they're seeing, a high quality leasing office and clubhouse versus something that was kind of drag. And then it just, like you said, first impression, very
right.
important.
Well, also what I've realized, Gary, is that not only by changing that, obviously, it gives you a higher, probably, hopefully higher rate of, helping your leasing staff lease those units, stuff like that. But it also, the morale of your staff improves. So you want them to come home to come to, happy. You want them to be happy at their workplace, right? So I think that also improves not only your property but also your staff.
Yeah, you can't necessarily correlate the ROI on, new branding, paint, and the clubhouse and the leasing office. But man, I mean, that's been a huge driver of rent increases for us.
Yeah.
And not as much as the unit renovations, particularly in times like these when there's so much price sensitivity.
Yes.
They're not focused on the renovation on the interior right now. We'll get back to that, but it's that pride of this is where I live,
Yeah. And look, yeah, I know we're talking about leasing offices, but I'll give an example. We were doing a large renovation in Fort Worth. This one was interesting. So the office had to stay open, obviously, during our renovation, and in one of those during the renovation, obviously we secured everything. Everything was not clean and safe. They had a little open house in a section of the leasing office, and I remember the client calling me afterwards and saying, "Hey, we literally got like 3 or 4 leases because residents saw this like renovation going on and the improvements. We had some boards, and they were able to see what the final product was going to look like." But it really does help.
Do you have any great low cost projects that create a ton of value besides that, like the rebranding and ideas that maybe an operator should be thinking about?
Yes. Well, relatively low costs, right? I mean, just amenities out, as simple as just adding a couple pergolas, nothing crazy, but that really does also make a difference. As far as unit interiors go, I mean, you can always just change the look and feel of and this is also relatively low cost, but you can always change the look and feel of a unit with just repainting. And that will go a long way as well. Outside of that, there's, a few things you can do with just making sure your property's clean. So, yeah.
Yeah. We like to add an accent wall in an interior because just that one wall just makes it all pop a little bit more throughout the apartment.
That's a great point. Accent walls, and as well as, we're starting to see it more and more. And if you only go in and do these changes, I think it makes a big difference. Just making sure it's a small detail, making sure that you're adding the micro USB outlets into the either, one by your kitchen countertop and a couple in each bedroom. I wouldn't say that's a super low cost, but it's one of those where it's just a nice detail to have. All the newer properties have it, and it's what everything is moving towards anyway. So
So what are some of the common mistakes or mistake operators make when taking on a value add deal and maybe they start engaging with you? Because I want to figure out like how can an operator work with a GC better? So is there anything that you see that is a common mistake people make, or?
So common, I'd say, mistake that people might make is one, not, hopefully by the time you get a property under contract, you have an established relationship with your GC. I'd say one, establish a relationship with the GC that you've vetted, you have a good communication, you like each other, obviously you trust each other, right? But get them involved early on. I mean, as early as you possibly can to help you put that budget together for your underwriting as soon as possible. Don't do this, right? A lot of times we've had experiences where, hey, how did you come up with these numbers, or who helped you put these numbers together? Well, I Googled some of them, or I asked a buddy of mine, and he did a property similar to this one, and we figured out the numbers that way. Some properties might look very similar feel, similar vintage, all that stuff, but completely different once you actually start touching it. So I'd say one, get your GC involved as early as possible to help you. I think that's probably one of the most important ones, so they can help you put these budgets together early on. Two, I would say, once you've got everything put together, you've worked through the numbers, get 2 or 3 bids, and again, just vet the GC pretty well. So
yeah, costs can change within a couple months period. It could change in market. So yeah, before you even put it under contract, like you said, you work out that business plan ahead of time, because some things may be more costly than you expect, and it'll really screw up your budget after the fact. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. Get a few bids way ahead of time, and this way you could figure everything out. And it's okay to pivot down the road. Like there are projects that we had in mind and didn't do, or we changed it based on once we got in there and got a better feel for the property over time, and we're like, well, there was this one property where they had a bunch of landlocked kind of in the property, and we came up with kind of a elaborate like landscaping plan for it, and then we ended up not doing it and focusing on new fencing because we felt that was a lot more bang for our buck. And it just took us a while to be into that project, to like keep going back and forth, and finally making a decision, on that.
Yep, absolutely. And Gary, to that point, look, why it's worth, establishing a relationship with a GC that can, one, scale with you, and two, also be able to pivot with you. Sometimes a mistake that an operator can do is they'll go from GC to GC because, on this project, this guy's a lot cheaper. This other project, this guy was a lot cheaper. What ends up happening is, you don't end up, again, building that relationship. And if something happens with, during the project with a GC that you don't really have a relationship with, things can go, split, go sideways, whatever it is. But the positive of building a relationship is with an established GC, is that yes, they can adapt to your game plan. They can pivot with you as long as it obviously makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, just like any other business, know, like, and trust that person. With a broker, if they know, like, and trust you, they're going to want to do business with you. I want to stay with the guys that I've been through, projects and battles and whatnot to get it done. That's much more valuable to me than saving a few dollars.
Right. Absolutely.
So walk me through, last question, like one of your coolest projects, something that you're pretty proud of that you've done in the last year or two.
Oh man, there's two. I'll tell you two, Gary. One of them, and it's here in Fort Worth, and it was super cool. There was a property. that's kind of known there in the Fort Worth area just because of how it's built and where it's at, that I've driven past for years. And I was like, man, one day I'm gonna, I'm gonna do work at this property. And it was wild. Yeah. Early this year, we wrapped it up around December. But I got to repaint the exterior, completely rebranded it. Awesome colors. It's a mid-rise, 6 stories tall. Rebranded the exterior, completely redid the leasing office, courtyards, amenities. And it was just one of those things where, we had to have, it was big. We had to have 2 project managers on it. It went well, but it was one of those things where I had seen for years, and we happened to land the project, and it was great. Our client there is great to work with. And it was just great. It was one of those kind of, I don't know, projects where you hope to do one day, and it came true. So the other is we're actually working on and I'm so proud of my team for this. We're working on about 300 to 400 units across 6 different states right now, and they all kicked off at once. And the amount of coordination that took to execute, and it's underway now, and it's going great. But I'm super proud of that project. It's super cool to be able to coordinate all that, make sure that everything is in order to execute it successfully. So yeah, those are 2 right now.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Ruben, appreciate you coming on the show and adding a ton of value on construction and working with a GC. Where can listeners find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can check us out at our website, sayanconstruction.com. We're pretty active on social media, Instagram _ JST Sayan, just Sayan. Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. So, reach out to me on LinkedIn. We're pretty active in the space too. So I'm sure, if you see our hat at a networking event, if you see one of our guys, reach us out. I think that's where I met you, Gary, at one of Disrupt's events. So.
Yeah. I'd seen your work for quite a while, and then I finally got to meet you, and I'm like, I should, definitely have you on. So great to have you on, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon. But this is Gary Lipsky signing off. I'll be back next week with another informative episode on the Real Estate Investor Podcast. To all of our listeners, thanks for joining us. And if you like this episode, please head over to iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe, and leave a review, as it will help us reach more people. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do at Break of Day Capital, head over to our website at breakofdaycapital.com and sign up for our newsletter and fill out our investor application. We'll talk to you next week.